I was talking with someone recently about how infantry is not really good against Nurgle, given their propensity for Mortis AoE drain effects, like what the Exalted Great Unclean One not only drains, but AoE heals as well. In fact, I think they actually only have this one AoE drain right now, but plenty of AoE heals and heals in general means that fighting in an infantry blob fight against Nurgle is pretty hopeless. Although I didn't have this discussion with my patron Coops, he seems to have taken a similar idea into consideration here with this build. He's got a very small, less than 250 model count Kislev army, 249 to be exact. Got heavy war sleds, 2 little Groms, Boris leading the way with a Patriarch, Frost Maiden of Ice back here, 2 Griffin Legion, up to rank 3, and 2 Horse Archers as well. Up against Nurgle, we've got the Exalted Great Unclean One getting knocked over by little Groms. Looks like 3 Nurglings up front, 2 Forsaken, make that 4. 1 Cultist here, got some Plague Toads, 2 of them, 2 Furies, and the Festering Stooges in the back. So, pretty good stuff. The little Groms do basically like single entity monster weapon damage with their missile attacks, more or less. 600 weapon strength, armor piercing specifically, with another 160 base missile damage. They'll definitely be doing a number on that Exalted Great Unclean One. Meanwhile, we've got Chariots just running Disruption, the Dread Sleds, I should say, in the front line, getting a little bit of disruption here. Kislev Magic, Lore of Tempest, going to be used here. Not the best. It'll come in and do a tiny bit of damage, but really it's honestly going to be pretty weak considering what you're paying for it. And we'll talk more about magic later, but I almost wonder if Frostblades, just taking like Frostblades only, would be a better pick here with the little Frost Breath spell as well to apply Frostbite and do a little bit of AoE damage. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. But anyway, Nurglings getting hit hard by those Dread Sleds. Boris and the Patriarch also holding back a lot of units. Little Grom, both are just shooting and scooting at the moment, trying to stay on the move. Fleshy Abundance healing the Exalted Great Unclean One already. Looks like those Griffin Legion got tangled up in an engagement, managed to take quite a bit of damage, but more Griffin Legion coming over this way. At 100 armor will definitely, 110 armor even, will definitely help. Decent bombardment there on those Forsaken. And the Cultist is going to pull in some more... yes. What are they? I don't even remember. My brain is fully not functional right now. Not Plague Walkers. Not Plague Ridden. Plague Bears. That's it. But something gross. Anyway. And you can see here that the Nurgle player is kind of caught off balance by this very strange sort of all-mobility kite build, right? Not something that works at all in Domination, but... of course, in Domination, you can just split push side objectives, and you don't necessarily have to fight the Exalted Great Unclean One blob like you do in a land battle, whereas here in a land battle, kiting is definitely going to be pretty solid. We've got the Frost Maiden taking a lot of damage here, getting caught by the Cultist, and the Furies does an overcast bombardment here. Going to do some pretty decent damage, but overall, Frost Maiden hasn't come close to paying for herself yet. The Hailstorm just really doesn't do that much damage, you know, considering the cost of it. The Griffin Legion, though, 110 armor, should be able to hold out for quite some time. This is one reason why, though, personally, might have just been better to just take Frostblades, because the extra damage output you could get on something like this Griffin Legion with the magic and extra weapon damage of Frost Blades. Extra melee attack, too, actually, in a sustained fight against something like these Toads, especially with their physical resistance and not that great a melee defense. The Griffin Legion would just be able to cut through them that much faster, so the additional damage that you would get from that might be more than what you would get from Hailstorms anyway. Hard to say. I'd have to test it out a little bit for myself and see, but a nice little countercharge here with the Dread Sleds, trying to thin out what's left of those Furies, allow little Grom to get free, and keep shooting at the Exalted Great Unclean One. It's at its healing cap now, facing off with Boris. The Patriarch also a little bit surrounded here, and a lot of these Kislev units have popped their Dire Blood already because they tend to get isolated in a situation like this, kind of dragged down. Boris also having a pretty bad engagement here. He gets some bad RNG and gets hit like 5 times in a row by the Exalted Great Unclean One, which is just bad luck, honestly. There's not a lot that can be done about that, so one of those things you have to prepare for, and why, like, 1 versus 1 character engagements can be a little bit risky, even though I would say Boris is probably a better combatant overall than the Exalted Great Unclean One. It's just, I mean, he does have enough melee attack, 60 melee attack, against the 74 defense of Boris with all of his buffs active. But unfortunately, the Patriarch's not long for this world. The Dread Sleds also get terrified away fairly quickly, and this little Grom, unfortunately, had some pathing issues, came forward into combat, also gets routed, but should be able to come back from route, hopefully get some more shots. This other little Grom is having a hard time getting away from the Cultist, too, which is unfortunate, but Cavalry is able to collapse these Toads here and finish off the Forsaken as well. So things are not looking completely out of reach for Koops. He's definitely got some tools happening. Boris, though, again, bad RNG, gets hit multiple times here. It's a little bit less surprising when he's completely surrounded like this that he would lose this engagement, but little Grom, you can see, still getting some hits too, but especially as Boris turns his back on the Exalted Great Unclean One to do attacks into this blob, he's going to be having the majority of his melee defense bypassed by the Great Unclean One, so he's a lot more likely to get hit, right, on his melee attacks. But let's see who goes down first. Exalted Great Unclean One down to 800 HP. Will Boris actually attack him? Boris takes another hit from the Great Unclean One. It's going to be super, super close, guys. We'll keep the health bars up, keep the background up as well. You can see those Nurglings are now crumbling away. Boris hits By Our Blood. By Our Blood even runs out. Exalted Great Unclean One down to 230 HP, 600 HP on Boris. He's taking hits on the side from all these units. You can see there, a big hit from the Exalted Great Unclean One. He routes. Its leadership stabilizes because, of course, it's a demon, and therefore, especially a high-tier demon, is functionally unbreakable. So, yeah, unfortunately, Boris just gets straight up killed there, which is definitely very bad. One more shot from Little Grom comes in and snipes out the Exalted Great Unclean One there. Both lords going down here, but unfortunately for Kislev, they are just very thin on the ground at this point. I mean, there's just a handful of Dread Sleds here. The one Little Grom gets finished off in the distance by the Cultist as we speak. And now it's going to be really tough to get through these Festering Stooges. You got to aggressively cycle charge with all of these units, and even then, you're going to be taking damage every time you do charge in and out. Terror is kicking in for these heavy war sleds. I'm not sure what's causing terror. Oh yeah, Festering Stooges, that's right. Their Gloom of Flies active will still be causing terror, so even with Big Boy, right, the Great Unclean Chungus going down, there's still terror on the field, of course, because of the Stooges' hugely powerful Regiment of Renown effects. Red Sled's coming in for one more rear charge there. Unfortunately, though, their leadership's so low, they're very likely to just get quickly terrified away. Although they should be able to finish off the Forsaken here. Likewise, if the Griffin Legion can circle beat down that Cultist to death, would get rid of the leadership effect, the Encourage effect, right, that he has. But let's see here. Both the Forsaken are now done. Horse Archers hit the By Our Blood, and there's still the one more Nurgling trying to chase off this other Little Grom. If he could get this Little Grom back, that would be super beneficial. So it may be worth peeling a Horse Archer just to go chase. It also might be worth, you know, trying to chase these routing Forsaken, perhaps. It's just hard to allocate a specific unit here. Like, maybe the Griffin Legion could go do it, but at the same time, you also want them coming in and dealing damage to everything, right? Because they're one of the few health units left. Only have a lot to give, but unfortunately they are exhausted, which means their charges aren't going to be nearly as impactful. But this unit comes back from route just in time to go chase those Forsaken. The Nurglings get intercepted by the Horse Archers. Should do okay initially there, although the engagement isn't going to be super crispy. But still, should allow Little Grom to come back. Looks like it does. Bounce Pow really not looking great for Kislev, though, as, of course, Festering Stooges this entire time are just continuing to heal with their Festering Gate. So, you know, time is not on Kislev's side here. Let's see. If Little Grom's able to fire for an extended period of time, though, and get some decent hits, could make a difference. Let's get in close. Watch the Festering Stooges as they advance past the corpses scattered across the battlefield. Looks like Little Grom having a hard time shooting over this slope, which is very unfortunate. Some line of sight issues definitely there, and the Cultist making his way over on horseback means he's got a reasonable amount of speed, could possibly catch up with Little Grom and drag it down, so got to be careful of that. Griffin Legion coming in, flying those Forsaken. Might try and keep the Griffin Legion a little close, but there we go. Little Grom finally getting a hit there on the Festering Stooges, downing their unit models. I don't believe their Festering Gate, it actually does resurrect dead combatants, so those models might be able to come back. Forsaken Shatter there. Griffin Legion coming back around. The Cultist is beating down the Horse Archers. The Cultist Nurgle's so ridiculously strong, honestly. It just insane. The mobility, too, the aspect of it is something that Nurgle definitely lacks generally, so he does provide that for you. Another awesome cannon shot, boom, right through the Stooges. They have taken a lot of damage just from a couple of cannon shots, and now the Griffin Legion are committing to stop the Forsaken. Stooges just getting left in the dust. Of course, their slow speed coming back to haunt them at this point. Kislev, all of a sudden, looks like they've got a pretty good chance to finish this thing. The Forsaken decisively defeated there. They're going to get routed and likely shattered. Horse Archers come back, get another little counter charge there. They've got a decent charge bonus, 30 charge. They can actually get some damage, only 45 armor on the Cultist of Nurgle. But let's see. Little Grom doing a little 360 shuffle there, trying to get into a position to fire, but unfortunately Festering Stooges don't need to be in melee combat for long to charge up their Festering Gate and Gloom of Flies. Now they're, of course, healing back that HP, resurrecting those dead combatants, and more than that, the Cultist manages to squeak away from the cavalry and possibly catch up with Little Grom. Oh, it looks like the Griffin Legion are able to surround him, possibly rout him. Ooh, it's going to be close. Let's see if his leadership is able to hold. Unfortunately, the terror from the Festering Stooges, just as soon as the Horse Archers get close, they terror out. The Nurgle Cultist manages to hold his leadership just barely here, and here come the Festering Stooges. Griffin Legion may want to try and get a countercharge in there. Right now, they're just committed on focusing down the Cultist, but that means they're going to eat the charge here of the Festering Stooges. Not a great situation for them. That 72 charge, of course, a little bit debuffed because they're exhausted, but they could have gotten enough of a countercharge there, perhaps, to finish off the Festering Stooges, but now with their armor sundered by the Cultist, oh, it's going to be so close, guys. Who will win? And again, though, the Festering Stooges, they're just ridiculously strong. Regiment Renown abilities kick in from that short melee duration. They should be able to hold just fine. I mean, they're up to 59 melee defense. They're regenerating HP. They're causing terror. And that Nurgle Cultist just will not go down. He refuses, absolutely refuses to run away. And I do think maybe they should nerf the leadership on this guy just a tad, perhaps. But, you know, it is what it is. Because of his resoluteness, though, acting as the anvil here, the Festering Stooges getting in, hammering away, just slowly and surely dragging these Griffin Legion down into the muddy snow. And that will be the end. They're going to hit that By Our Blood passive. They'll hold out for some time, but at this point they've taken too much damage. They wouldn't even be able to beat the Festering Stooges, even if they cycle charge. So a little bit of a rough finish there. Again, I'm not sure exactly with rules-wise if they were playing under a certain tournament rule set that doesn't allow you, but I think probably that little bit of a counter charge there at the end to finish off the Festering Stooges might have changed things, but honestly, one of those fights where RNG, you know, especially between Boris and Exalted Great Unclean One, definitely could have changed things. There's a number of small factors that could have changed the outcome of battle. That close, but definitely a fun one, and I like to see some kite builds once in a while. You know, with domination, it's not something you see super often, and it's not a playstyle. It can be very frustrating to play against, but once in a while can be interesting, and especially in a matchup where, again, for most factions, you really don't want to fight Nurgle in an extended melee combat, and that's kind of unavoidable in a sense in land battle. At least you have to fight at some point. Doesn't mean necessarily you have to fight an extended infantry blob, and going with a mobile kind of kite hit and run style like this does seem to be something that Kislev can do reasonably effectively. So hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this. It's definitely a fun one to cast. So yeah, if you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification every time I upload a new video. You'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.